All right, I wanted to talk really quickly about something. If you've listened to any of my completely unhinged 7-hour rambles about urbanism, I'm a big fan of e-bikes. I think that, so first of all, cars are incredibly expensive to own. There are varying estimates, but it's usually in the ballpark of something like $11,000 a year to own a car, from maintenance to supportive infrastructure to gas to whatever else. That's an ungodly, to insurance, that's an ungodly amount of money. Car infrastructure as a whole is incredibly destructive to city landscapes. You eventually arrive at positions where something like 70% of the space taken up within a city is done entirely for cars, and human beings are just kind of narrowly skating around the edges of that territory. You have gigantic, what would otherwise be productive areas, lessened to being parking lots. It's really destructive. It's economically damaging. It costs the city an ungodly amount for road maintenance and repair. It doesn't help people get around faster because there's always traffic, and it hurts businesses because people are less likely to shop at a place if they have to dedicatedly park there rather than just having to walk by it. Right? Right. So I don't like that. But I do like e-bikes. I think they're cool because an e-bike can get you up to 20 to 30 miles per hour. Um, pretty easy right out the gate, lot cheaper. That's great. So there is an issue though. You know these things? I hate these things. I wanted to talk about them super quick. So because of these e-bikes and e-scooters, there has been a precipitous rise in injuries and deaths on these e-scooter, e-bike, and hoverboard injuries. This is from late 2022, basically a year ago. Injuries on these spiked 127%, and the number of deaths rose from 5 to 48. E-scooters had the highest percentage increase in injuries and accounted for 68 deaths in the same time period. Consumer-owned e-scooters accounted for the most ER visits, but incidents involving rental e-scooters were not far behind. Now, usually when studies like this are taken, they kind of leave out the important info, which is that the things that are doing the killing are the cars, right? Like they say, oh, well, people died on the e-bikes. Well, what killed them? Was it a crash with another e-bike that killed them? No, I don't think it was actually. And of course, we know that, hold on, total car deaths and injuries. If we are to talk about deaths and injuries suffered, 43,000 deaths in car accidents in 2021. That's not even injuries. That's just deaths. 43,000. If we're to talk about like the deadliness of any kind of vehicle, it would be the car taking the top spot, not e-bikes and e-scooters. So I don't like the way the data is usually framed because it leaves out like the cause. Top hazards in e-scooter and e-bike fatalities were incidents with motor vehicles and user control issues, followed by fires. I'd like to see a breakdown of that specific information because I'd be willing to bet that, quote, incidents with motor vehicles represent like overwhelmingly the large number of deaths here. It's pretty difficult to die from falling off an e-scooter. Possible if you're not wearing a helmet, but difficult. And that's not good. Fires, you've got your batteries. You got to be careful with that. Anyway, what am I rambling about? This is a simple point, okay? I really, really, really don't like these because I think they're selling people on e-scooters and e-bikes in a bad way. I think that e-scooters and e-bikes have the potential to be incredibly beneficial for city design and layout, having people have an option to move quickly across bike lanes very, very easily. I think it's possible to design these safely. What do you think? Ooh, he's fast. He's fast. I think it's possible to integrate these in a beneficial way. The problem is that we all know what kinds of people use these. Drunk tourists. Seriously, like a huge by the way, when I say these, I mean e-scooters, e-bikes, and whatever this, like I'm just broadly, okay? It's drunk tourists. People do it for a little bit of fun when, you know, we don't give people the option to just pick up a car and then drive it around for an hour until their card runs out. It takes time and training. It also does with bikes. You need to know the rules of the road on a bike or a scooter or whatever else. You need to know how to control the specific vehicle you have. We consider all of this when it comes to vehicles. Vosh zip cars, yeah, but you can't get a zip car unless you have a driver's license. Whereas there are people who are just picking up these e-scooters and e-bikes and blah 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 blah, and then just zooming around with them, completely carelessly with no experience or training. And I think it's selling people on these devices in the wrong ways, you know? Like, I think that people are getting a bad rap with this, largely because it's this like cosmopolitan, like city. You want bike licenses? No, I don't want the stupid rental ones. At least not like this. I think that it's kind of it's an issue if like the opening integration of this technology is being framed through a disproportionately irresponsible consumer group. I think that sells the technology poorly. You know, you need a driver's license to use the vast majority of bike rental thingies. Is that true? Well, that doesn't tell you that having a driver's license does not mean you know how bikes are supposed to be used on the road. Vosh, I walked my class today to teach. I'm a professor, and one of my students ran into me on one of those things. I'm fine, but my God, it hurt. These e-bikes are very common among drunk dumbass college students. Yeah, I don't like that. Like it seems like they're being introduced as a novelty, which encourages irresponsibility, which encourages people to think of them as like not, mind you, a viable alternative to car-centric infrastructure, but rather as like a nuisance that just, a toy that just, people f around with. You do not need a license for bike rentals? Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought you just needed like a credit card. Honestly, I wouldn't mind the idea of an e-bike license if it was done properly. We are way too willing to give people driver's licenses. You're 16, you do a little written test, you show that you can drive around the block with a person sitting in the passenger, and then congratulations, you can now operate for the rest of your life a 2-ton giant iron box that causes more deaths than basically anything else. Most people don't know how to drive. Vehicle laws are one of the things that I am like very totalitarian about. I think that way more strict uh licensing and policing could be reasonably justified in this venue for sure. Billions must walk. Exactly. I just want these to be used responsibly is all. I don't think they should be rented. I guess they can be, if you want, but I think that people should just have e-bikes. Vosh, e-bikes go quicker than you can react, especially if you're used to normal bikes. Even in the Netherlands is a problem. Yeah, well, you'd need to encourage people to be responsible or put upper limits on how fast it can go. If you're like, honestly, if you're in a city that's like pretty dense, there's no reason for your bike to go faster than 20 miles an hour. The other issue is how trashy they are structurally. In college towns, students will often leave them wherever they run out. I've seen people leave the e-bike things like in the middle of the road all the time, and I hate these people. This is so much worse than not bringing your grocery cart back to the little like rack that it belongs in or whatever. They just leave that shit. You've probably seen the same if you live in any major city. Like, what are you doing? Fuck off. I've been to Seattle and I've seen these scooters all over the place. It's a blight. Yeah, no, it really is, because it's like stupid, dumbass, drunk assholes who just throw them everywhere. Vosh, you can easily hack an e-bike to go faster. I'm sure there are ways around this. Have you ever ridden on an e-scooter or an e-bike? No. Do you think the lack of bike lanes is the issue? I mean, that contributes to it, I guess. But survey details on how riders got hurt on Seattle scooters. 70% of users do not wear helmets. Yeah, of course. Obviously not. Oh, yeah, wear a helmet? Yeah, you should wear a helmet. This is how half the scooters ended up in my college campus, Lamau. Yeah, it's like littering. If people actually own these, it's less likely they'll do this shit to them. I heard from bikers it's safer not to wear a helmet. Yeah, a biker would say that. That fully sounds like something a biker would say. I saw a study, and actually, wearing a helmet is more likely to injure you. If they didn't want me to throw them into the river, why they make them so river shaped? Yeah, it's like throwing used car batteries into the ocean, except it's unused e-bike batteries into the canal. It makes sense. In the Netherlands, people don't wear helmets, but only because the streets are already safe enough. What hold on. Deaths, injuries, e-bikes, Netherlands. Cycling capital of the world. 53 deaths from e-bike accidents from 2017 to 2021. E-bikes responsible for about a quarter of all fatal bicycle accidents in 2017. If the streets are safe, you shouldn't need a helmet. That's not really true. Even if the streets are still like perfectly safe, that doesn't like still get injured. Yeah. How do these companies even make money when each scooter only lasts like 5 rides before some drunk jackass throws it in a river? Or is it just another venture capitalism scheme that's never meant to actually be profitable? I think it's the latter. Are these companies making any money? Like, really? Yeah, VO e-bike profits. Released end of year data showing a revenue increase of over 225%. Okay, revenue. What about profit? How much are you spending? I Googled profits. What about the profits? Okay. I don't know. I feel like this might all be like fake. Is this making money? I can't see any data on their profits. I can only see revenue. Where's what costs? What costs are you incurring? This information has to be public. They can't hide it. I don't know. Profits, expenses. I'm not seeing it. I think this is all fake. I think it's made up.